Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. Hey Magic Makers, it's this week's iTunes review. Amy W. Fitness says, Kim knows her stuff. Keeps it real on all levels. 5 stars. Awesome podcast series on relatable topics that women deal with. Kim's advice, along with her sense of humor, is what everyone needs to find their fit girl magic. Well, thank you so much, Amy W. Fitness. That warms my heart. If you haven't yet left your review, please head over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and hit rate. And then hopefully it's a 5-star hint and leave me a review. Thanks. Hey, Magic Makers, it's Kim here. And we are in store for another great episode, right? I got to blow my own horn. So, of course, every episode is absolutely amazing. Today, it's all about cravings. Now, I talk about cravings because I was doing research and, I had to give you some stats. So here are some stats. A journal published in Appetite says that 97% of women and 68% of men report having an occasional craving. So when I tell you this, I want you to feel like you are not alone. And when I look at the difference between men and women, it makes me really say, our gosh darn hormones, they really play a big factor in these cravings. So before I go any deeper into this, I'm all about the definition. So we all get on the same page. So cravings are an intense desire for specific food, and it's stronger than normal hunger. And I think I've done, maybe I haven't, I think I've done a show about hunger, or I've talked about hunger. And so hunger is you will eat anything, right? You will eat, steamed broccoli because that's how hungry you are. You will eat your left arm because you are hungry. Where a craving, like I just said, it's a desire for a specific food, right? We've all had that, like, I could go for a chocolate chip cookie, or, I could go for a pizza. And like, sometimes we can get so specific of like, where we want the pizza from or the cookie that we want from. I used to work at the Prudential Center in Boston, and they used to have a food court. And the food court had this, it's called Paradise. I think it's called Paradise Bakery. Maybe. All right. But it was definitely called Paradise. And it was like, it sold sandwiches, coffee, and they sold cookies. And they had this Amaze Balls cookie. It was a coconut chocolate chip cookie. And if you timed it right, you could get it hot out of the oven. Let me just tell you, that was smack your mama good. And the funny thing is, so when I used to work in the Peru, I had a gym. I worked at a gym that was in the Prudential Center. And so in the morning, you would walk in and, it's 5:30 in the morning, and you would smell chocolate chip cookies baking and bacon. Let me tell you, if that smell doesn't get your cravings going, I don't know what other smell will. So that's what cravings are. And people, I've seen all over the internet that, like, cravings are a nutritional deficiency. Well, I can go either way, right? I can go either way. I will say that probably there's some merit to that, but usually I say that, our cravings are more than that, right? Our cravings are like, we're hardwired for craving, because usually if you think about it, like when we crave food, we don't crave, like I said, we're not craving broccoli, right? We crave like salt, we crave sugar, and it's like the high processed crap. We're not craving the healthy food. Like no one's like, oh, it would be so amazing if I had a turkey sandwich. It's rare that you say that. Now if you say, oh, I want a turkey sandwich, it's probably like, oh, the Thanksgiving turkey sandwich with, cranberry sauce and stuffing and all the fixings, right? So instead of saying it's about nutrition deficiency, I like to say that cravings are three things, right? And these are the questions I always ask my clients when they tell me, that they're having cravings. So the first thing I always say is, are you hungry? Right? So what are you eating? Are you eating enough each meal? Because when I'm hungry, I start to crave because I didn't get enough. So that when I don't get enough, quality food, my body starts seeking. It's looking for energy. And when my body's looking for energy, it's not saying, oh, can you make sure that you have a yogurt with some strawberries mixed into it? It's like, no, girl, we're going to need, a chocolate sundae. Now, if I'm setting anyone off, I apologize. I know that didn't want this episode to be all about like food porn. So, what's your energy like? Did you sleep last night? Have you been sleeping well? Because again, if I have low energy, I'm going to be on a sugar, caffeine fix, trying to find ways for my body to get more energy. What are your emotions? Are you in an emotional place right now? Did your boss just yell at you? Did you just get into a fight with someone? How are you? Maybe it's a habit. Maybe at the 4 o'clock comes and you're like, oh, it'll get me through if I go to the vending machine and grab whatever it is you grab out of that vending machine, or maybe it's like whenever you go to the grocery store, well, they don't do this anymore because of Rona, but they used to have out all the sample. So maybe you had to have samples because, or you knew when sample day was and you went. And so you're like, if it's in the store, it doesn't count. And you're like, I've made 4 trips around and I hit every sample, right? So that's what I want you to think about, am I hungry? What's my energy like? Am I emotional? Am I stressed? Is it just a habit that I come home and I immediately reach for the refrigerator and grab whatever it is that you grab when you come home? And I was guilty of that. When I worked in corporate, I would immediately come home and I would grab a block of cheese, and my husband and I would talk about our days and literally demolish either the whole block or half a block of cheese without even thinking about it because we were so engrossed in our conversations. So from this point on, I want to talk about, you're never going to not have cravings, right? That's just life. This month in my Fit Girl Magic Society, we're talking all about cravings and craving beyond food, like craving for life, craving for relationships. And how do you tap into that so that you're no longer feeling like you're sitting on the sidelines, like watching as life passes you by? So for the rest of this conversation, it's like, how do we minimize the cravings, make them less intense, make them less frequent so that, you don't feel like every day you are crashing and burning, when it comes to your craving. So let's get ready to go. So I talked about this briefly. You aren't eating enough. I see so many clients, they live in this bubble. Like, here's my bubble. And if I only eat this way, then I'm safe. And what happens is maybe your activity level is so high that you are burning way more calories than you are consuming. Yes, we want a calorie deficit, but it's a nuanced thing. If I'm always hungry, then it tells me I might be eating too little calories to keep up with my, my workout. Maybe I'm working out 7 days a week and every single week I'd be like, I got to crush it. And if that's the case, and I'm only making this up, I'm eating 1,200 calories, guess what, girlfriend? You are always going to be hungry. And when you are always hungry, you are going to crave the bleep out of everything, right? So take a look. Are you eating enough? And that requires you to write stuff down. Now, I'm not asking you to be anal retentive. I'm just asking you, write stuff down and see how you felt. And I always challenge my clients to say, you want to be on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 means you can eat your arm. 10 means you push back from the table and you're unbuttoning your pants. You want to be between a 5 and 7 after every single meal. So start to see what's going on. Also start to see, on a day that you crush it at the gym, are you extra hungry? Because I know on days when I have a heavy leg day, all day long, I'm hungry hippo. So then I have to be like, all right, Kim, you crushed it at the gym today. Make sure I add a little extra protein and vegetable to each of my meals to alleviate me being a hungry hippo at the end of the day. This is my jam, right? For those of you who are longtime listeners, you'll laugh out loud when I say this. And another reason why you crave, you don't have a freaking plan. You have no idea what you're going to eat that day. So you just go in the day willy-nilly, and then time goes by and you're like, oh, you're thinking about what you're going to eat. You're trying to figure it out. Then you're like, oh, that takes too long to cook, blah, 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 right? So when I'm constantly thinking about what I need to eat and I'm not eating, I always reach for the fastest thing. I remember I was in corporate. I didn't plan crap. And I was always at the vending machine eating food out of the vending machine because it was fast and it was easy and it was simple. No wonder I was up 40 pounds. Okay. So I want you to start thinking about, right? Get used to planning, and that you'll be amazed at the peace of mind this brings you. Now, I'm not asking you to be a meal prepper. Well, I love meal prepping, right? And I can easily show you how to make it simple. I have a guide. I will attach it in the show notes. But what I'm saying to you is when I'm prepared, it makes things go much more smoothly. Now, I want you to think about, when you go on vacation, do you roll up to the airport and be like, hey, I'm going on vacation. When's the next flight? No, you're like, oh, we're going on vacation. We're going here. We're staying there. These are the things we're going to do. Like, we spend more time planning our vacation than we do literally taking 15 minutes and saying, what the hell am I going to eat tomorrow? And making sure I have that in the house. Or if you're eating out, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to go to Whole Foods and I'm going to get a tuna sandwich. And that's what's going to be for my lunch. I'm going to go to Starbucks in the morning and get an oatmeal, right? It doesn't have to be something you make, but it's go in with a plan. And again, know how those foods make you feel, right? Do you feel, hungry after you eat them? Or do you feel like, rolling over and taking up a nap? Now, I can't say this enough. And, I want to say most people, they'll be like, oh, I know I don't drink enough water. Well, the other reason why you feel like you could be you craving is thirst, right? Thirst mimics hunger. That's what I want to say. Thirst mimics hunger. So staying very hydrated helps you to ward off those cravings. So I always say to people, you're working out, bring a 16-ounce bottle of water with you, and your goal is to finish that before your workout. So that way you get at least 16 ounces in you before, like while you're actually working out. And then fill that 16-ounce bottle of water up and say, you know what, within the next hour, I want to finish this post workout. Because staying hydrated can make you feel full. And many people will ask me, how much water should I drink? So I always say, there's been that 8 glasses of water thing forever. I just say to you, like, take your weight and divide it by 2. All right. And if you're like, I haven't stepped on a scale in years, guesstimate it, right? I'm not trying to fit you for a parachute. So if you're off by like 5 or 10 pounds, you're not gonna die. All right. And then when you feel a craving coming on, have a glass of water just to see if it is thirst. And, I'm never going to tell you to deny your cravings. I'm going to say investigate, right? Because the more you deny your cravings, the more you will go off the rails. Right. And we all know, some of us can like easily go off the rails and just have like that pack of cookies. Some of us are like the pack of cookies leads to ice cream, that leads to pizza, that leads. So when it comes to giving in to your cravings. I alluded to this earlier. Are you tired? right? Many people listening to me right now don't get enough sleep, right? Because you don't make it a priority. I do have a couple clients who like, they're just sleep just eludes them, and we're working on, coming up with ways to get them to sleep. But I challenge every single one of you listening, have 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Now, for me, I will tell you, I think I get anywhere from 8 to 9 hours of sleep, like blue moons. But I, for damn sure, make sure I get 7 hours of sleep every single night. I literally will count back the time I have to get up in the morning and say, okay, I need to be in bed by this time so that I can get up in the morning. Because when I don't sleep, I am literally like mainlining coffee, like I'm a junkie. Maybe I am. I don't know. No comments from the peanut gallery. Mainlining coffee, and I am craving like nobody's business. I know me, right? I'm telling you things that I want you to start to be able to know you. And I know me. I know when I have a heavy lift, I'm going to crave. I know when I don't get enough sleep, I'm going to crave. So when those two things happen, I'm like, okay, here's my prognosis, and this is what I'm going to do so that I'm not stuffing my face, right? So that's all I'm trying to, get you here, is that if I start to like recognize patterns, how do I take these patterns and use them so that I can be like, okay, when this happens, this is what I'm going to do, right? So you have a plan, right? You're like your body's ninja, So so you are your body's ninja. All right, because I'll give you some research. It says that as much as 55% of the people who are considered to be obese, 55% of them are not getting enough sleep. And your body is actually saying, you're forcing me to stay awake. So if we're staying awake, I need some energy right freaking now. So it's sending you to those sugary, fast things to eat. So, if you're like, I don't know how much sleep I'm getting, I'm a Fitbit junkie, right? It's yeah, sure, I count my steps. The big thing I track is my sleep. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Is it off a little bit? Absolutely. Right. But it's a ballpark, right? I don't look at it as an absolute measurement, right? Even your Apple Watch, whatever you use, it can be off, but it's a guide. And I'm using it as a guide to say, okay, did I hit the 7-hour mark? Great. Boom. Done. That's what I'm really looking for. Was I restless? Right. I'm looking at what my sleep quality was, so that I gives me a better guide as to like what's happening in my day. Now, another way to create a craving is I call it disordered eating. All right. So what disordered eating is that you have one great meal and then you didn't have a plan. So then too much time passed between meal 1 and meal 2. So now you're just out in seek mode. So you're just like, I'm seeking. I'm trying to find something to eat because I'm hungry. And when I'm hungry, I can't make good decisions. I don't know about you, but I know like my husband calls me a gremlin, right? And it's a movie from the 80s, cheesy as all hell. So if you're like desperate for a Netflix, Google that and watch it. But basically, gremlins, like can't feed them after a certain time, or they just get cray cray. When I am not eating, I get cray cray. So I want you to start thinking about, making sure my meals stay balanced. And so I created a guide for you, a cravings guide. And in it, I talk about, what are the right ratios, the proteins, the fats, the fiber, so that you can make sure that all of your meals start to look better, so that you're starting to eat more, that you're more full, so that we're not in that, I didn't eat enough. I remember back in the day, people would be like, oh, I had an apple and I was so full. I'm like, unless that apple was the size of your
goddamn head. How are you full? Like an apple is like, I had an apple and, okay. So if you're having these, like, I call them one and done snacks, right? I had some almonds and, right? I want you to think about everything you put in your mouth. Protein kicks it off, followed by something else. Protein is your new BFF, right? You and protein are like besties. Like you are like side by side. You're like peanut butter and jelly. That's what you and protein are. Ugh. The other thing is, really just eating unrefined carbohydrates. So I see a lot of people still do this. They will have a bagel and cream cheese for breakfast. Well, that's not enough food, right? The bagel is just going to go right through you like nobody's business. Then, the cream cheese doesn't really do much. And so then you're going to be like, you haven't given yourself enough food in the tank. So then it's going to start to, you're going to start to crave. You're going to be hungrier faster than if you were to say, get that protein in. And, there's a study that said, a study of overweight teenage girls who, when they had a protein filled breakfast, they had less craving. Right. So if I haven't beat the drum about protein, I have no idea. If I haven't drilled that point in, then maybe I need to stop talking. Because protein is such a foundation, especially for us ladies. If we're trying to, stave off that muscle loss that happens after 40, protein is the building blocks of muscle. The more muscle I have on my body, the more I can increase my resting metabolic rate. The higher my resting metabolic rate is, the more calories I burn just at rest, right? We're always chasing that calorie burn. But if I have more muscle on my body, I don't feel like I have to work that hard. Your body's like, hey, I've raised my caloric level. And without doing that much, right? So it's not about the whole deprivation thing. So protein is your new best friend. So good choices of protein are Greek yogurt, eggs, poultry, fish, lean meats. For those of you who are vegan, vegetarian, here's where I have to like throw the caution flag. And coming up, probably in about a month, I'm interviewing a vegan. One of my wobbles about veganism is that for the amount of protein you get out of a plant-based product, you get a whole hell of a lot of carbs. And so you have to be very, very mindful of that tipping point, especially if you're someone who is looking to lose weight. I'll be the first person to say, and she might change my mind. When I asked her for an interview, I told her, I was like, look, girl, I'm like on a bubble about veganism. And I said, for some people, they think it's going to help them lose weight. But for some people, it does the absolute opposite of that effect. So I want you to be very mindful of that. Stress, right? You know how I am about stress. I've done a show about stress. It's one of my first shows that I did about stress, is that we are stress balls. I'm a recovering stress ball. And I will tell you that when I was stressed, I did not eat. And there are other people who, when they're stressed, they eat all the time. And, studies show that women, we don't do well under stress, right? We suck at stress. And that stress actually helps us, just by itself, without us sending us to the refrigerator, that stress causes our cortisol to rise, which causes us to lead to weight gain, especially in our bellies. So we have to do our best to manage that stress. And so, part of me is like, there's certain stresses that we know are going to stress us out. So plan ahead, right? What are some of the alternatives that you could do, or can you avoid it? What are some of the stress management techniques you can start to bring into your life? Can you start to meditate? Can you journal? Pray, go for walks in nature, deep breathing exercises, breath work, And if you find yourself, in that craving mode, I want you to start thinking to yourself, like, recognizing the triggers. Just as I said before, the more we can recognize like what sets us off, we're able to kind of diffuse the bomb, right? The craving bomb. Think about the bomb squad without having that giant protective gear on. We're trying to play our own CSI and say, what is going to set us off, and we can counter that. The other piece is your environment. And I get this. I will tell you this. I completely understand this. When I first started doing fitness competitions, a lot of my friends were big drinkers, and they were like every Friday night we would go down to the bar, down, in the lobby of our building, and for a quick drink, and the next thing you know, we're closing the bar, right? So I totally get that, and I know what it's like to be around those people and then not be drinking. So you kind of start to like pull away, but they're your friends. You want to be with your friends. You want to hang with your friends. So here's where I want you to start thinking about, what can I do when I'm there, right? Can I have one drink and then have water the rest of the night? Can I make the decision before I go that I'm just going to have one or two drinks and I'm not going to have food, right? So you are like able to say, I'm going to be social, but here are the boundaries that I'm starting to set up so that it doesn't set me off later for waking up the next morning and being like, oh, I shoulda, coulda, dida, but I didn't. And so now I have to go to the gym and like burn it all off. Like, let me just tell you, you're never going to win at that game. That game sucks and you're not going to win. So if anything, I'm not brutally honest. I used to play that game all the time. So as you do this, start to, pay attention, like what's happening. Who are you around that causes you to maybe eat more than you should, drink more than you should, and then have that conversation with that person and say, hey, look, Sally, I'm trying to lose a few pounds. I can't just be out here, ripping down drinks with you and then going for chicken wings. I'm trying to say, I want to have one drink and maybe you have a salad. I don't know, but it's you having the conversation with the people that you're around saying, I'm trying to live a better or healthier life. So yeah, the other thing is, shopping. When you are shopping, don't buy crap. Don't buy the crap in your house. That way if I have to get up and go out for it, you're probably less likely to do it unless you live around the corner from the grocery store. But you're less likely to go out and do it, but I want you to feel comfortable that you can go out for a birthday party or a celebration but have a plan. How is the night going to end for you versus just be like, I'm going out. It's party time. Right? How is the night going to end for you? The other thing I always tell people is like at the beginning, like if you feel like you eat dinner and you don't remember what you had, turn up the TV, put down your phone, put down your book or whatever you do when you eat dinner and just either have a good conversation with someone or if you're eating by yourself, nothing, right? Don't eat with your phone or don't eat with your TV because I've been guilty of like 2 bites and I'm like, where's my food? I don't even really remember eating it. And last but not least, right? Many of you are on here and you guys love to work out. You have to crush a good workout. I want you to make sure you're fueling your workout, so that you're not, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, I want you to make sure that you're fueling those workouts, so that when you finish that workout, you have a plan that you're going to be like, all right, my next meal after I work out is going to be within 30 to 60 minutes. It's going to be protein based, hint, hint. And I am going to, not skimp on my food because if you find yourself extra hungry on your workout days, you gotta think about the meal before. Not just before, so the meal like 2 or 3 hours before your workout and the meal that you're going to have anywhere 30 to 60 minutes post workout so that you make sure that, you crushed it and now you want to make sure you fuel it. So it basically, as I wrap up this conversation, it boils down to three things. One, improve your diet, right? So eat healthy, whole foods, adequate protein, at least 30 grams in every meal that you eat. And you'd be surprised. I'll give you this quick thing before we go. So an average chicken breast, 4 to 5 ounces, right? Eggs, you're going to need at least 5 to 6 eggs if you want 30 grams of protein with your eggs. So think about that. Stay hydrated. Give your lifestyle a really good makeover. Set boundaries so that when you're out and about, you don't just fall into that trap of like, I went out last night. Oh, you are like, I went out last night. I said, this is what's going to happen. And bada bing, bada boom. That's what happened. I woke up this morning and I feel fresh as a daisy. No guilt, no shame. Right. And then also just start to figure out like, what are the triggers so that you can become more aware so that you can, again, be your own CSI so that, you could be like, okay, I examined what happened and here are the things that I'm going to now not do so that I don't fall down the same rabbit hole of craving. So, like I said, I created a guide for you that, pretty much synthesizes all the tips that I've given you to help you, stay on track and crush your cravings. So you will find that in the show notes. It has been an amazing conversation. And if there's one takeaway from this, do me a favor, screenshot this episode and tag me in the socials. You can find me on Instagram at Kim Jefferson Coach, or you can find me on Facebook. Same thing. All right. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.